Hello and welcome to Swamp Sound Studios, Gabbing About Gear, episode number 1. Today we are going to talk about everything related to recording drums. Let's dive in. Now, when it comes to recording drums, there's a few things that you want to keep in mind. A couple of principles, a couple of concepts. Now, once you know them, how you apply them is art. So a couple specific things. The big one's going to be phase correlation between microphones. So that's going to be your overhead microphones, as well as your snare top and bottom, your kick in, kick out. Some people do not phase align them in post. Some people do. It's a personal preference. Same with room microphones, depending upon how many you're using. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. Kind of depends on the project. So it's up to you to make that decision. There's no right or wrong way. Again, once you know and understand these concepts and principles, how you apply them is an art. So the other thing when it comes to drums is the tuning. That is going to be most important. That's going to be what determines what your drums sound like. Also, your cymbals. I've tended to lean towards darker, larger cymbals, especially for recording context. They do track better. Lastly, snare drums. Just changing your snare can alter your drum recording wildly. I have 7 or 8 at this point. Throwing a towel on it, throwing one of those taco things on it, a couple moon gels, pulling it on off, tuning it tight, high, whatever, can drastically alter your drum recording before you do anything else. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive in. I'm going to show you what mics I use, why I use them, why they're in the position they're in, and I'm going to show you what preamps I use, why and how they hit the desk the way they do, amongst other things. So let's go ahead and let's dive in. Alright, y'all, we're going to work our way back to front out of the closet corner. I'll show you the doo-doo room another day. So this is my main vocal mic, and we're using it as a room mic with drums. This is one of my absolute favorites. This is the Warm Audio Tubed 47. It's a monster. I absolutely love this mic. Very high fidelity. What I'm doing with it for drums is I'm just kind of aiming it back into the corner, catching some room sound. So it does a good job. Very, very full-bodied microphone. Now this guy down here is a little interesting. It's a Lexington tape machine, but what I've got going on is I've got a Telefunken TD20 microphone that's going through it and being smashed. So those microphones were meant for tape machines, and it is just absolutely getting squashed. I mean, you can see it's picking me up right now, and we're going to use that for drums. It looks out into the room. So this is my main guy here, my 2004 Gretsch Catalina Fusion Birch. It's an absolute beast as well. Smaller sizes, but if you know how to tune it, you can make it sound pretty gigantic. So it's all Fusion sizes, but I absolutely love this bad boy. So we'll run you top to bottom here since we went back to front. Back to front, top to bottom. So I've got Audix F15 pencil mics mounted on the ceiling, doing a very wide stereo image, kind of aiming at the snare. They're pan very hard left and hard right, and get basically the whole image of my gigantic, ridiculous drum set, which you'll see the scope of how ridiculous it actually is. In the middle, over the top, I've got the Warm Audio 84s in an XY. Since they're rejecting the snare, I wanted to do a mono condenser large diaphragm, and that is a AKG C214 over the top, aiming directly at the snare. So that's a good place too to start. Start rather. We'll talk about snare. I'm just doing 57s on the top. This one I don't necessarily turn on, but when you do, it's kind of like a groove, high-pitched kind of a snare. Excuse me. Down there, I've got an SM58 aiming at the shell. As you can see, I'm using a pork pie that is vented all the way around. So I thought it'd be fun to try it, and I actually really dig it. On the bottom side, don't know if you can see this, I've got an Octava MK219 large diaphragm condenser microphone, trying to get the top and bottom hitting at the same spot, and it's getting all these sizzle. So on the inside of this timbali-like Gretsch drum, I've got a 57, and the 57's on the inside of those octobans there. Some more F15 pencil condenser microphones looking over the top of the snare, and then I've got one hiding under here, under the ride. This here is an Audix F14. It was replaced by a D5, D6, something like that. It's a good all-around low-end kind of microphone, and I'm kind of digging it on floor tom right now. So I wanted to do something different than 57s. I've always kind of done 57s on top, and recently I switched to the AKG D5s, and I actually really dig them for tom-toms. So that's what we're doing on the toms. And then there's the plexiglass microphone going through Votech. I'll show you here in a second. So that's all the close mics as well as the one room. And let me swivel around here and I'll show you the other room mics. Oh, I forgot to mention too the kick drum mics. So I'll show you this one because you can see it. On the inside, you've got the RE320, Electro Voice RE320 microphone. A little bit off center of the beater smack. And that is literally all it gets is that clicky attack of the kick. So let me switch positions and I'll show you the rest here. On the front side kick, I'm using the Warm Audio 47F. It is dead center in the kick, and I typically do one of these guys. I cover it up like that to reject some of the cymbal noise because it is very high fidelity. That is my all-time favorite front of kick mic. It does the warm, pillowy 70s kind of a sound. So yeah, and if you're interested in what kind of mounts I'm using really old LP clamps. They're ancient, but boy, man, they're so strong. Indestructible clamps, and that's what's mounting that kick drum mic as well. Here's a little side shot of the room mics. Let me swivel around and I'll talk about those for you. Let's talk about patch bays and room mics. So this is the patch bay. Right now, this is patched for the vocal you're hearing through those two compressors. Otherwise, there'd be nothing through the bottom four patch bays patched in. Everything is hard patched. I only patch when I need to. This is all my effects and all my other monstrosities for my buses, and I do use this itty-bitty Soundtracks Topaz on my buses, on my console, so I get a little bit of Topaz preamp coloration and EQ. I love it for that. Forgot to mention that guy. If you know, you know. Elisa's Wedge. That thing's a bad boy. So, back there, what I have hiding is a Sterling Audio ST50. That's aimed at the wall, so it is catching reflections off the wall. Now, up here, don't mind my mess, up there is a Sterling Audio ST50, also catching reflections off of the wall. Hi, marbles. Yeah, so kind of a wide stereo pair doing their thing. Now here we have the Golden Age R2s. I have them, they're ribbons and they're aiming away from the drum set. So they are figure 8. They pick up a little bit of the drum set, but they're more catching the sound of the room, if you will. Got my Warm Audio 87 R2 down here. It's low, rejecting the cymbals, trying to get some low and build up in the room. And also, the wall there, the plexiglass wall, is blocking it. Hey there. So let's talk about the analog desk I'm using. So this is going to be one of the most important factors. Why do I use an analog desk? Well, a lot of people aren't anymore. There's a handful of us left. I like it for the convenience factor for a number of reasons. When you're tracking a band, the drummer has a million tom-toms and whatnot, you got 5 or 6 guys. I don't want to have to rely on processing and latency and things like that trying to send signals back for headphone mixes. So having an analog desk on the front end allows me to make multiple headphone mixes in real time, lightning fast. So you want to hear some kick drum? Here you go. The other reason I like having an analog desk, when you're recording multiple inputs and you have multiple preamps, things like that, I want to be able to hear everything before it hits the computer. With an analog desk, that allows me to monitor before I record. So I can hear every preamp, every microphone, every signal chain on the desk, on a channel strip, before it hits the computer. The beauty, too, having an analog desk and using the insert points. So I am using the insert points for all my gear. So let me explain that real quick. The microphones are all plugged directly into the desk. So they pass through the preamp in the desk, out the insert point, and hit external pre's. So a lot of my preamps on the desk, I'm not driving them super hot because I'm hitting about 27 different outboard preamps and hitting those super hot for the coloration. They come back into the desk, and I now have the ability to control the volume of them on a fader before it hits Pro Tools. So I can get ideal levels from the desk before it hits my recording rig. So that's why I like analog desks. Also, I'm using a Soundcraft Ghost. This is what you call split inline desk. So with the flip of a button, I can toggle between multiple inputs on the channel, meaning I can do a snare top and bottom in real time and blend them on one channel. You're committed now, but I can do that. Or, in this case, the way I'm using this desk, I have 32 outs from Pro Tools that come back into the desk. So once now I have something recorded, I can say, pull it back into this desk and now mix everything through these channel strips, EQs, and all the lovely outboard gear that I'm going to show you here in a minute. That's one of the reasons I love the Soundcraft Ghost. This video is not sponsored by Soundcraft in any way, shape, or form. They quit making these in about 2004, if I'm not mistaken. But this console in particular is built like a beast. It's decently transparent, so when you start putting insert points and inserting preamps and compressors and stuff, it handles it real well. One last thing I'll say about this desk that I really love, and one of the reasons I choose to use an analog console in my studio, is the bus groups right here. You can take any input on the desk and you can send it to one of these buses. And what I have going on is a bunch of outboard reverbs you can't see under there. Reverbs, compressors, things like that. And I can now make really wild drum mixes and things like that and say, hey, I'm just going to grab one snare note. Whoosh, gotcha. Ooh, let's put a little bit of delay right here. Whoosh. Yeah. It's a little bit old school, but yeah, man. Until you've thrown some faders around and felt it, you know. I mean, mixing in the box is cool, don't get me wrong. But there's just something really, really fun and unique about having an analog desk. So that's why I use one. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about preamps and compressors and microphones and stuff. Every studio has to have a cat. One that, you know, hey, this is what I'm talking about. Bites on you. Hey, stop it. bites your microphone cords and keeps life interesting. Studio cats are the best. This is Marbles. He just turned 3. And yeah, as you can see, he makes a mess around this joint. Hi, Marbles. We're going to talk about all the preamps and stuff now that you've seen the microphones on the drum set. I'll tell you what we got going on here. So we're going to go top to bottom. Okay, starting up here. Auteur. So we got Black Lion Auteur MK2, number 1. That is handling room mic, Sterling Audio, number 1. ST50. Cheap, large diaphragm condenser microphone. Does a good job. Like it. Number deuce is handling kick out, that Warm Audio 47F, and we're lightly hitting this guy, a Warm Audio WA2A. Just a little bit of pillowiness, getting that 70s kick sound. All these SSL 6 strips handle tom-toms and octobans. So rack 1, 2, 3, octoban 1 and 2. That's it. That's all we got going on tom-toms. So this guy, I really like the Lindell preamp. It's got a Pultec style EQ in it that is handling kick in. It's an Electro Voice RE320 you saw on there. I am boosting a little bit at the frequencies that I particularly like for kick drum. So lot less post EQing going on my kick. All right, coming down here. The 312 usually is for guitar. Sometimes I'll run room mics through it, but not often. So yeah, but love my 312. The Rupert Neve Designs 511. That's got the Warm Audio 47 tube, my main vocal mic going through it. When I'm doing vocals, I'll typically hit the 76 and the LA2. Do the LA chain, baby, you know. But got the red silk all the way on, engaged. Yeah, baby. The Tridents, I use these a lot. I love these guys. Trident 80Bs, preamps and EQs. I'm probably one of those few nerds. These are actually a sequential serial number pair, numbers 89 and 90, off of the factory floor there right when they came out. So 89's a special number to me. Year I was born. Hey. Anywho, I'm running the Golden Age R2 ribbons through these guys with the EQs engaged. Doing a little bit of boosting, a little cutting, that kind of thing. Having some fun. Right now you're hearing the Warm Audio 273 on this here 58, straight through it. And we're hitting my classic chain here, the 76 and the LA tube right now. But for drums, this is going to be the Warm Audio 87 R2. And we are hitting the bus comp, but as you can see, it's engaged and it's not doing anything. We're just more hitting it for color. It might grab here and there, but not really. These guys are on those bus groups I was showing you. So Lexicon, Reverb, MX200. It's fun. It works. And then a DBX 266XS on one of the drum buses. I skipped the SSL VHD. That pretty much lives on my bass guitar. I have a E609 silver on my bass cab in the other room going through that if you're interested. And then this guy lives on a guitar in there. I believe that's on a 57 on one of my Fender amps in there. The Golden Age pre-573. Absolute monster. Love that thing. We'll come back to these guys. Tone Beast is going to be snare top. I've got just a 57 running through that, and the hard chain is usually the 76, unless I'm doing, something like now, like vocals. So, love these paired together. Forgot to mention on that vocal chain, the 511 actually always goes through the Warm Audio Pultec style EQ. Usually leave it bypassed unless I need it. But those are hard chained together on that Tube 47. Forgot to mention that. Haha. I do have a Tascam Antares. Thing's pretty fun. You like old school country? Hey, baby, we can make it happen with this guy. Um, Pretty fun unit. I don't use it as much. Kind of grab for the plugins, but I do use it here and there. Warm Audio 412. Love this bad boy based off of the 312 over here. One channel is dedicated to guitar in that back room. That'll be another video for another day. But 3 of these channels are getting used. So I'm using 1, 2, and 3. I'm using it for hi-hat, ride, and snare bottom. So that's going to be that snare bottom Octava MK219 large diaphragm I showed you, and then those Audix small diaphragm pencil condensers. This guy's an absolute monster as well. By the way, no one's sponsoring this video. I paid for all this stuff myself, so I love you, Warm Audio. But yeah, they didn't pay me to say any of this. I just love them. So, anywho, this is their WA-MPX, their take on an Ampex. Absolutely love it. This lives on my drum overheads, the XY pair you saw of Warm Audio 84s. And this guy goes through these DBX 560As, hitting them super light, just kind of grabbing when something really wild happens. So, same thing, more for color. This auteur, I was running the other room mic through it, the other ST50 through this auteur. Absolutely love it. I usually DI bass straight into that guy all the time, and then do like the Warm Audio WA, 2A, something like that afterwards. This guy's an absolute monster and a sleeper. So I love it. It's an event preamp. I don't know the model number offhand. Same as my speakers that you'll see up there. Same brand. Went out of business in the mid-2000s for whatever reason. Great company, high quality stuff built in California. From what I've been told, this preamp was designed by the owner of Grace, and he designed it and whatnot, and it went into production. Another Golden Age 73 style pre, and that's also just living on guitar. So that's that over there. I have one other thing I want to show you, so pardon me. So over here, these are going to be my interfaces and some of my outboard goodies. So, there's a lot of debate about converters and whatnot, but, I found a company that went out of business a little while ago called Cymatic. This is a U-Track 24 interface. It's just 24 in, 24 out. That's all it does. It's got a clock in out on it. I updated both mine to the ADAT in and out cards, so I can do a lot with it. It's very versatile. It's been very stable, very clean. I've been very happy with it, and I'm using an external Black Lion clock with it. I did notice a big difference. Maybe only us audiophiles will notice, but I noticed a big difference in the low end and the high end specifically once I started using an external clock. The Scarlett MK2, hey, is what it is. I inherited that bad boy, and it's just handling my last 8 channels on my console. Gotta do what you gotta do. Yamaha comp that lives on the bus insert point on my console, so that's like my bus comp for my console. I love it. Sounds great. Adding a little bit of gain with it and just a little bit of reduction. Not much. Grabbing some peaks. Lexicon MPX 110. This thing's pretty fun. Usually vocals, drums. I've used it on bass. It's a fun one. Another Lexicon. I don't remember. This is the MPX 500. That's a good one. I have fun with this guy. Drums all day. Buses, things like that. Mixed buses. Got the MIDI Verb. Same thing, very fun. I like to use it on drums, vocals, keyboards. This one gets used on keyboards a lot. And I've used it on some other things like acoustic guitar, things like that. So that's what's in my rack. Yeah. But last but not least, I'm going to show you one little thing. Here we go. Over here. Bzz. The Votec. We are using the Votec with the plexiglass microphone. Aiming at the plexiglass here. And it's doing somewhat of a quarter note delay, something like that. It's pretty fun. I really dig it. Oh hey, let's go ahead and let's dive into this Pro Tools session and let's take a deep dive. So we'll start here at the top of the session. So my master, I've just got 7-band EQ, barely doing anything, cutting. We're boosting a little bit on the compressor for some love. Got a dither and the Shadow Hills compressor. On the drum bus here, I've got 7-band EQ, doing some cutting, a little boosting, using the ultraviolet, boosting pretty heavily. Also boosting pretty heavily with a compressor just to get some love, and using the SSL Brainworks 4000G. I bought all this with my own money, by the way, so Brainworks doesn't pay me or anything, or plug-in alliance. So I am doing 2 parallel buses. There's all the room mics and close mics on one drum bus, and then drum reverb parallel bus where I'm boosting heavily, compressing it, and we're using this reverb here. So on the tom bus, we've got a 7-band EQ, some compression, little gate, and some reverb. So all the toms go through there. Right now we've got a bass, but we'll talk about a bass bus another day. Here's a little sample. We're not here to judge my playing, we're here to judge the recording, but here you go, here's a little taste. Cool, so we're going to loop this little section right here. I'm going to mute the bass, and let's go ahead and let's dive in. So, snare top. Let's go ahead and start there. We've got a 57 going through the Warm Audio Tone Beast with a Warm Audio 76. Here's what it sounds like. Lovely. Got a large diaphragm condenser, an Octava MK219 going through a Warm Audio 412 on the bottom. Unflattering by itself, but when you put the two together, the top and bottom, here's what you get. Pretty cool. Top, mostly cutting. Boosting with a compressor because it tracked a little light. Cutting a lot of low end out and boosting with the bottom mic there, as well as compressing. Something new I've been trying is a 58 on the shell. I used a pork pie that's vented, so here's a 58 on the shell. Really not meant to do much, just kind of meant to add a little love there. So let me go ahead and pull that down a little. Probably barely hear that. Pretty cool effect. When you add it in, it does a thing. So here it is together. Pretty cool. Alright, moving right along here. We had the RE320 on kick in, going through a Lindell preamp with a Pultec style EQ, boosting a little bit on the way in. And then we had kick out, which was Warm Audio 47F, and it was going through the Black Lion Auteur MK2, and that was hitting the Warm Audio WA2A, their take on the LA2. So here's both those kick mics together. Pretty cool. So here's just kick in. Here's the EQ. Here's the compression. I'm using a distressor style compressor from Plug-in Alliance. 1:1 ratio. It's not really doing anything. It's just hitting the total harmonic distortion circuit, if anything, or emulation thereof. So here's kick in. Pretty cool. Here's kick out. Very subby, but you put them together. Not too bad. Alright, moving right along. I have the same microphones on hi-hat and ride. They were Audix F15s, and they both went through the Warm Audio 412. So here's just hi-hat, and here's the EQ curve on it. We're doing a little boost around 7.5K. Pretty cool. Here's just the ride. Here's the EQ curve on that. So we were just rolling everything off basically after 1K. Here's both of them together. Pretty cool. Alright, so my favorites, the Warm Audio 84s overhead and an XY going through the Warm Audio WA MPX. It's like an Ampex style tube preamp, and then that was hitting the DBX 560s kind of lightly. So here's just the overheads. I mean, that's just a usable drum sound right by itself, but I do like to use a mono overhead. So we've got an AKG C214 overhead, and here's what that sounds like. It was going through the Warm Audio 273 and hitting the Warm Audio Bus Comp Super Light. Same thing, that's a usable drum sound right by itself, but add in those other overheads, the 84s. Pretty cool. You can gain those up and just use that. I do have the other set of overheads here. It was the F15s again going through just the Ghost Desk. Very quiet. And they're super hard left and right, and then the overheads are about 72%. Here's all the overheads together. Pretty cool. Alright, moving along to tom-toms. So we'll just touch on these very, very, very briefly. Got a lot of them. I had a little timbali kind of thing there. There's the EQ curve, doing a delay, auto pan. 8-inch tom, 10-inch tom, 12-inch tom, 14-inch tom, Octa 1 and Octa 2. Concert tom was going through just the desk, I believe. Yep, just the desk. And then everything else was going through an SSL VHD preamp. Pretty cool, but I like to hear those in context more or less. I'm going to move right along to the room mics. I think those are also most fun. So here is a cheap Sterling microphone aiming at that plexiglass shield, going through that Votech with a little like quarter note delay. And here's the EQ curve on it, rolling off a lot of high, and then boosting it heavily in the mid-range, doing a transient sustain style thing there. Super cool. Here's the Telefunken TD20 going through a Lexington tape machine, and then that would have been hitting the Golden Age 73 preamp. Kind of quiet, but hey. Here's the 87 on the room going through the Warm Audio 73 and bus comp. The transients look small, but it picks up quite a bit of mid-range. So then I showed you the Sterling Audio ST50 against the wall aiming at it. Here's that. And that was going through in Black Lion Auteur DT. Pretty cool. My two favorites, the Golden Age R2 ribbons, and those were going through the Trident 80B EQs and the 80B preamps with the EQs engaged. Absolutely love these, so check these guys out. Cool. I've been wanting to use those on overheads. And then last but not least, here's the tubed 47 on the room. That was going through the Rupert Knee 511 preamp with the Warm Audio Pultec style EQ disengaged for some transformer love. Let's hear that drum sound all together now. Pretty cool. Let's add the bass back in for context. Pretty cool. So hey, that's what everything sounds like by itself. Hopefully this gives you some ideas what you can do. Minimal post-processing. Let me know if you want to see some more videos on bus processing, perhaps drum bussing, tom bussing, working on the analog desk to process drums and whatnot. But yeah, that's it. Well, thank you all for diving in deep with me here at Swamp Sound Studios and going through the muck of recording drums. I hope this was insightful. I hope you learned something, seeing why I do the things I do, what it looks like once it hits Pro Tools, what it sounds like, and what you can ultimately do. Because again, you know, this is a blank slate. You can take it any which way you want. This is an art. There's no right or wrong way. So stay tuned. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that fun stuff if you like what you see. Let me know what you want to see. I was thinking about doing videos about recording guitar, recording bass, perhaps maybe drum bussing, things like that in the analog domain, things of that nature. Let me know what you want to see. A lot of routes we can go here. But thanks for hanging out, and hope to see you around here again soon.